Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. What a day to be a Celtic fan. We've got a lot to talk about, but first of all, glad to be joined by Dunny, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, good, mate. Well, God, I think the last time I was on here, Tyson and Usyk hadn't even had their second fight yet, just the way things have worked out. But yeah, delighted to be back on, although just gutted there was a game at the weekend, so there's not really much to talk about, really, is there? But such is life.
Slow news day, but I'm sure we've got a couple of topics. McGinty, how's yourself?
Not too bad. Same as Anthony. Well, I've probably been on more recent than Anthony, but it feels like a few weeks since I was last on. I'm sure we'll dig up something to talk about the day. I mean, as Arthur says, nothing happened at the weekend. Kind of getting near the end of the transfer window. Things are just slow moving. We'll come up with something, guys. Something will crop up, I'm sure.
Something will crop up. But did the storm affect you? Anyway, outside my apartment, there's two down trees. There's one hanging on the power line, so hopefully it doesn't cut off tonight. But was it crazy over here, Anthony?
Yeah, our power was off and on all on Friday night, and then like there's a lot of trees kind of knocked down around in our surrounding area. Obviously just kind of had to, with a lot more acute admissions and stuff at the work. But yeah, it was that's what it is. It's obviously we're used to it. We're not quite as used to those kind of levels of winds. But yeah, definitely a day we'll no forget with the old on the old weather front. But yeah, if the one thing that affected me is obviously I was meant to come on Friday night, but just the way it worked out, you would have been. But this room would have been darker than John's back cave.
He'll come at you for that. It was crazy over here, to be fair. I think that it broke the record of the wind. I think it was 113 miles an hour at some point, parts of Ireland and on the coast and things like that. So we got a real battering. What about yourself, McGinty? Were you affected? Were you out in the van? Were you delivering?
No, I actually got the day off because it was that bad. Rightly so, they eventually came to the senses and figured that it was a national red warning. Police were telling people not to leave their houses, and eventually the company thought maybe we should tell the drivers not to come in and drive the high-ended vans. To me, though, just another day in Shetland. That was, I mean, a wee breeze. There's not much going on. Although
you love it. You love it up the Shetlands.
It's no competition, but I think USD win with 113. I think Scotland was 102, 104 was the highest they got recorded on one of the bridges. I've seen pictures. I think it was a co-op at Denny. The side wall is just came right off. You can see right through.
It's totally gone.
Absolutely gone. You've got trees have been uprooted and stuff. Usual kind of high wind season, but one of the worst ones I think we've all seen in a long time.
It's past now. It's past, and as you said, Anthony, there was no game to look forward to at the weekend. They called it actually late, to be fair, in the morning time on Saturday, and I seen a few Celtic supporters buses from Ireland made the journey, and just like the Irish people, they made the most of it. So still had a couple of drinks in the bus and made their way back on the boat and had a couple of drinks and had a good time by all accounts. But I think it was a wee bit poor in the communication front, and hopefully that can be rectified going forward. But we'll park that to the side, right? We'll park that to one side. We've talked about the storm. We've talked about there's no game. Blah, blah, fucking blah. There's only one reason why we're here tonight. Otherwise, it would have been a slow news day. We probably would have done a rewind or something. As the people in the comments are already talking about, McGinty, I'll start with yourself, buddy. Felipe Jota is back in a Celtic shirt. He was away for 18 months, was sold him for a club record fee at that time of £25 million to Saudi Arabian club. Unfortunately, didn't work out for him. Over there, he went to Rennes. And again, I think he was getting in the team at the start, but they had a new manager come in. And I don't think he quite took to him, which is unfortunate, but it happens sometimes in football. And he's found himself back at Celtic Football Club for a reported fee of £8 million, a masterstroke by Celtic, a masterstroke by Brendan Rodgers to get him back. Yes, there's a couple of things we'll talk about later on in the podcast that can make the moment bittersweet, but for now, it's just unbelievable to have him back at Celtic Park.
It's stupidly fucking mental. I mind at the start of the season, even on this podcast, we were all talking about how good Kuhn was coming onto a game this season. And then people were debating, who would you rather, Kuhn or Jota, if you had to pick one. We don't need to pick one now. We literally have the two best wingers that I think we've seen since the days of having the likes of Nakamura and McGeady. I think these two guys are absolutely phenomenal in whatever way we deploy the pair of them and Dice and Maeda is going to be absolutely terrifying. It's just mental. As I said to you as well, just before we went live, I think I came in and you're halfway through a conversation. But if you do the maths and work it all out, 6.5 million we paid for him after his loan deal. Sold him for 25, meant to be a 30% sell on. We'll assume it was on profit and not on the entire 25%. That's 25 million. And then we signed for £8.5, £9 million-ish. I think it works out that Celtic actually gained £2 million and have Philip Jota twice, which is just absolutely mental. I mean, I will happily lay into the Celtic board, happily go two-footed studs up on Peter Lawwell any chance I can get. But if Peter Lawwell couldn't have planned this any better, to get Jota twice and actually be in profit is a mental masterstroke from Peter Lawwell. So all credit to the club for pulling this one off. The news broke was it Thursday, Friday, the news was breaking and it started getting really quite serious. That you're thinking, right, actually we are doing this kind of unofficial trade between Kyogo and Jota. And it started ramping up from there. And it's still until I saw him sitting with that beautiful hair and that smile on his face in this season's Celtic shirt, until I saw that picture, I still wasn't fully believing it. I wasn't wanting to get my hopes up just to be dashed at the end. But there he is, the gorgeous Portuguese man that he is he's in the door, and 5.5-year deal. I don't care what we're paying him. He's worth every single penny. And it's just a fantastic feeling to have somebody of that calibre back at the club again. It's absolutely unreal.
Yeah, the superstar from Portugal is back at Celtic Park. And as Celtic rightly said in the statement, Anthony, when they released it, he's back home. There was no kind of welcome to Jota or back again at paradise. He's back home where he belongs. And he spoke about it. I thought he was very candid and he was very honest. He says that life's a journey, and we've all been through journeys in our lives, and it takes ups and downs. And I think the downs teach you lessons and teach you what the value in life, and you can look forward and make better decisions. And look, again, he moves. He always come back to it. He moved to the Saudi Arabian League, right? We know they're trying to buy football. They're Benzema, Kante, Mane's over there, etc. But he was moving for a life-changing sum of money. Regardless, I mean, he's thinking he's going to achieve millions here, and sometimes you take that into consideration. You'd be like, hats off to you. He made his route back into European football, and unfortunately, it didn't work out in the French league. But as McGinty said, to have someone of that calibre, if you think about it, the way it's looking, Jota even said himself today in his interview, it might take him a couple of weeks to get up to speed of things, right? But can you imagine, like, I don't know who our next domestic game is, so forgive me because I'm thinking about the Aston Villa game in Europe. But the next domestic game, we have Jota sitting on the bench ready to come on. There's levels in this game, and we completely dominated Scottish football. And at this moment, McGinty's right. I would go two-footed into the board. You know me, I'm their biggest critic. I'm raging at them probably 90% of the time, right? But we've always talked about them building squads and building squads with an outlook of challenging in Europe or making a dent in Europe. If you've got a department on the wings that include Jota, Kuhn, Maeda, possibly a couple other new additions to that we'll talk about later in the podcast, it's frightening. Not for domestic level, you must look at that and be like, how can we compete? It's incredible that he's back. Incredible.
That's a fantastic bit of business. And as you can see as well from his press conference and, how he spoke to Celtic's, media channel and stuff, it's not like he's been forced out the door at Rennes to help, facilitate another deal. He's buzzing to be back, despite the fact that he's never really, it's the Saudi Arabia deal, apart from his own personal bank balance. You don't go over to Saudi Arabia for footballing reasons, and for one reason or another, it's just not really kicked on in France either for him. But there's still no denying that he's a wonderful, wonderful player, and I think once he gets back up to speed, and especially getting coached by somebody the calibre of Brendan Rodgers, I think obviously even Brendan alluded to it last week in his Friday presser that he's someone that one of the reasons why he had originally agreed to come back to Celtic was the thought of working with Jota. He's exactly, and you obviously McGinty's talking there about, you know, the comparisons with Nicholas Kuhn, etc. We've seen how much Brendan's brought his game on, and there's no doubt. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic under Ange, but I think, you know, similar to Maeda, his game could just go up to the next level again. So, but he's if you work in Celtic's admin or PR team, you know, he's an absolute dream. You know, he's the most handsome guy on planet Earth. He's absolutely buzzing to be back at Celtic. You know, but we don't know what number he's going to get yet. But just regardless, it's obviously, we'll discuss about other transfer matters today as well. But in terms of just on the singular issue of Jota being back at Celtic, it's something I didn't think I would see. But I'm absolutely delighted it has, and can't wait to see him back in the flesh, you know, doing his stuff for Celtic on the park.
Yeah, I thought the photo that the team done on the Twitter page, probably on all the social media pages, of him doing that celebration against Rangers, the fist in the air. It's so iconic, isn't it? And he had so many iconic moments in a Celtic shirt. And we talk about McGinty, about Kuhn equaling and bettering his numbers. That's fair enough. But Jota brings different qualities than Kuhn. I think Jota's very technical. He can float in the left, float in the right, can operate in the centre. And I think what Anthony was saying there as well, Rodgers can add many strings to his bow in terms of development, coaching, different methods of playing, and it's just exciting to see what he can produce. And everyone in the comments, by the way, throw in anything you want to talk about this evening. Throw it in. This podcast and how long it runs tonight is determined by you guys. Chuck everything in you want to speak about, whether it's transfers, whether it's worries, whether it's future aspirations. We'll have a chat about something anyway. But McGinty, Rodgers, he did speak about it last week that he wanted to work with Felipe Jota when he first came in, and he was disappointed to see him go. And I think around that time you could really put the pieces of the jigsaw together. He was kind of laying the groundwork there, telling people that this deal is possible. And then he eventually confirmed it by saying that in the next 48 hours he expects it to go through. It was funny that the Champions League game really kicked it all off, wasn't it? After it, all the rumours came out. I think it was an hour after the latest Champions League game against Young Boys. It was the Kyogo stuff. We'll come on to that. But do you think Rodgers will have his way with Jota coaching, development on to even better things in the Celtic shirt from what he first produced?
I'm glad you finished that sentence after, do you think Brendan Rodgers will have his way with him?
Well, as Anthony said, he's a handsome fella. You know, people, I don't know what people want to do. I don't know what people want to do, McGinty.
Nice.
We've always been a very liberal channel here at Endless Celts.
We have.
Open to everybody. Open to everyone.
I think we all knew why. You've mentioned it earlier as well. We all know why Jota went to Saudi Arabia. It was nothing to do with wanting to leave Celtic. It was money that was offered to the club that we simply couldn't refuse. And as soon as we say, okay, we'll take it to the player can't refuse. What is it? You know, £200,000 or £180,000 a week or whatever it was. It's something ridiculous. Tax-free. Nobody, and I mean nobody in their right mind. I did see a couple of comments over the last 18 months, mind you, but nobody in their right mind ever begrudged Jota making that move. And people will say going to Saudi Arabia it's not a good career move, it's not ambitious, whatever. A guy who's 23, 24 at the time maybe it was, he's not necessarily going there for his career ambitions. He's going there to make literal life-changing kind of fuck you money sort of riches, to then come back to Europe, and he would have tried to kickstart his career again, to kind of kickstart his ambition, which I think is what he's probably alluding to. Even though he's got a 5.5 year deal here, he's probably alluding that, where he says, you know, this is the best place to call home, to find his feet again, and kind of, I'm putting words into his mouth, but to kickstart his career. I'm in two minds if he's going to stay here for all 5 years, or if he's going to stay here for his whole rest of his career, not sort of thing, or if he's literally going to be here for another, let's say 2.5 years, and then he'll go again, which is probably more likely. He's probably realised this is the best place to come to re-educate his football side again and get himself going again, and he'll get his money transferred, because he was not getting that at Rennes. As you said, Stephen, with the injury and then the change of manager, he wasn't getting looking. So his next step wasn't the EPL, it wasn't La Liga, it wasn't anywhere special, but he can come back to Celtic, which is special to him, and massively special to us, and he gets the best of it. I've totally forgot what the exact question you've asked me, Stephen, so I'm just going to keep rambling until you kind of shut me up.
Go ahead. I'm enjoying my tea. The floor is yours.
Oh, yeah, I'm enjoying the tea as well, yeah. What was your question, Stephen?
It was about Rodgers and his coaching with Jota.
Yeah, so this is what I was trying to get to at the start. He never left Celtic because Rodgers didn't want him. He left Celtic because it was life-changing money for him and the club that nobody could refuse. So he's coming back and he's already said what he wants to say about the managers. If he, it wasn't like Rodgers didn't have space for him. He wasn't the type that Rodgers wanted to work with. He 100% is the type. And at 25 years old, for the next year and a half, 2 years, Rodgers will develop this kid into something special again. And if he moves on at the age of 27 and gets his big money moved to La Liga or to the EPL, so be it. I'm all right with that because having 3 more years of Jota is absolutely fantastic to have.
Yeah, 100%. And Ben comes in. Anthony, Celtic fans will need to be prepared to be patient with Jota. He'll be rusty, but we'll hopefully get back into the Jota we all adore as well. And Jamie Brown, to add on to that, most people's ambition in this life is for generational wealth. Most of us worry about money all the time. Fucking know, Anthony and I worry about money every single day. But Anthony, kind of coming off what McGinty said, and you mentioned it, his contract as well, 5.5 years. That's a long-term dealer. So there's plenty of, looking at it from the board's point of view, he's 25 coming into his peak. He's protected over them years, and if there's a transfer fee to be recouped, I'm sure the board will look at that, but not to wish him away. It is about patience, isn't it? It is, because he will come in and he might struggle to make an impact. The first 2 or 3 games, but you can count on it once he's fully fit and once he's up and he's ready and he's into this tactical system. That it's totally different from Postecoglou. I think he said about that today in his press conference. As a new manager, new teammates, and I think he referenced that there's only 9 people left from the original squad he was a part of. And even thinking about that, there's a lot that has changed in the 18 months he's been away. But I mean, are you any doubts in your head? People say don't go back. I mean, Rodgers come back and he's done a fantastic job. A lot of players have done this, but yeah, now Jota's next in line.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of. I mean, players, fans of a generation, older than us, they'll remember, of course, Charlie Nicholas famously came back. But I think even then, most of the fans would agree that Charlie was way, way past his best when that happened. I'm just trying to think, maybe off the top of my head, more recently he's Aguirre, but again, nobody was expecting him to come back in and hit the heights of his first season. It was purely a backup to KT. But maybe somebody in the comments can maybe bring something up. But I don't recall a player going away as and making such a name for himself in the time that he did at Celtic, has went away and has come back in, like what you say, what can potentially be his peak years. And for a second spell. So there are players. There's a lot of players where it happens and it doesn't work out. I would say, just even thinking off the top of my head as well, although it's in goals, Fraser Forster's second spell, he came back and created a whole new generation of memories between the sticks as well. Obviously, you think of that cup final performance and his exploits in Europe as well. So, provided, I can't remember who it was that posted it there, but it made a right call. But he's not going to be that absolute superstar straight away. He's going to need a wee bit of time to get up to speed and get back into kind of his match sharpness and all that. I'm sure we have to look at him. He's clearly a guy that keeps himself fit, but of course you need to have that match fitness as well. So I think he'll get eased back into the team, but I think once he's up to speed, I think we can very much look forward to seeing a lot of the old magic again. As I say, it's not something that we thought was ever going to happen, but the circumstances, which we'll probably go into more in the next part of it, I think that he's the reason why other transfers have happened, because there was the opportunity for this to happen. And I think it's a real statement of intent from Celtic. And obviously, with these transfer deals, especially with the amount of money that we've forked out for him, there does still have to obviously be a bit of a financial thought behind it as well. And like you say, Stephen, a 5.5-year deal or whatever it is he signed. I'm not a fan of the phrase, but it is the only phrase. It's Celtic are protecting their asset and investment as well. So, he's hopefully going to be the first of a few statements of intent, shall we say. But in terms of getting the fans excited, getting them, ready for the second half of the season, bringing home a player who's already created so many amazing memories at Celtic, it's a win-win, and I know I'm certainly not the only one that can't wait to see him pull on the jersey again.
He put it on there and he looked absolutely superb. So, I mean, maybe Rogers is having his way with him, who knows? But what's his name? Nick Kurtzu. Apologies if I'm butchering your name, buddy, but Jota coming back after an 18-month stunt, and Scott Bain hasn't made an appearance since 2021. Still not played Bain when he walks into the dressing room. I'm loving the creative videos and wee gifs that you see on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, of like footage of Jota going back into the dressing room and seeing Scott Bain like, "You still here? How you doing that?" And all that type of stuff. So it's creative and it's quite funny as well. But McGinty, any worries with you about this? I know we're all focusing on the positive side, and rightly so. Has he made his money? Will he be as motivated as he was before? Is that an issue? Is he just coming back to where he feels? He mentioned he wanted to feel wanted. He wanted the place to have a soul where he felt connected with the supporters. I mean, no disrespect. I don't think at this moment in time you're getting that in Saudi Arabia because it's all manufactured and bought. The Rennes fans, I don't think they're, like, again, no disrespect, but I don't think they're as passionate as us Celtic supporters. Certainly not, in my opinion. So maybe he missed that connection that he had first time around with the supporters at Celtic Park and the wider community as well.
Yeah, I think he's reminded me a lot of Scott Sinclair when he first came to Celtic. And Sinclair done an interview where he basically alluded to, "I've made my money at Man City. I was falling out of love with football and I needed somewhere to come to find his passion for football again." And Scott Sinclair found that at Celtic. And he'll be the first one probably to tell you that it's one of his best times I'd imagine Scott Sinclair had was at Celtic Park. Jota's seemingly the same. He knows he's adored by the club and the fans, and obviously he adores us. So it's a no-brainer for him to come back here and feel that love. And as much as I've just said 5 minutes ago that he's got the big contract and we'll likely only see him for 2 years, to be fair.
McGinty, stop it! Stop it!
Let me. But still, wouldn't he be surprised if he just turned around and went, "You know what, actually, this is it. This is it for him." He doesn't need, like I said, Jota's not going to win. And I mean this with no disrespect to the club, to the fans, to the players or anything. But Jota's not. Jota for us is the best sort of winger we could feasibly get a hold of, especially twice in a row. But Jota's not going to go down and play for Liverpool or Man City and win the EPL. He's not going to go play for Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, or Real Madrid and win the Liga. He's not going to go and win, the French league with PSG, play for Juventus or Inter Milan or Bayern Munich. He's not playing for that level. He is going to play for Celtic, and he's going to win many titles for Celtic. He could go back to Benfica and win many titles with Benfica, which maybe he does. And he could go to even an Ajax and win titles with them. But I can't put words in his mouth, but what would be the point in going to one of these other clubs when he's got the option of Celtic? And that's the option he's taken. So as much as I say that he might only be here a couple of years, I still wouldn't be surprised if he's here until he's into his 30s and then he goes for swan song somewhere else. The only thing that worries me is that he's got those itchy feet to experience new cultures and travel the world and stuff. So maybe he will want to move on sometime. But for now, he knows where his home is. We're happy to have him.
It's like having a child who likes to do backpacking and go to Malaysia for a year or Asia for a year and just they know where their home is. They'll always find their way back eventually. Do you know what I mean?
I'll keep Jota for 10 years if every 2 or 3 years we'll just loan him out to Malaysia for 6 months to some backing club. He can go to Argentina for 6 months on loan. Just off you go.
Come back in 6 months, nobody.
When you league title in 6 months, then go away again.
What do you think about Wilson coming in here, Anthony? Jota will bring the best out in Bernardo, who should be playing before Engels. That's another debate for a different day. But do you think having the familiar face from the Benfica academy might help Bernardo in essence to kind of settle in and bed in even more? And I know he's had a year now, and his loan deal plus his permanent deal as well to settle in. But I think Jota talked about it today again in his press conference. He's looking forward to linking up with him again. He knows him from coming through the ranks at Benfica. They're both really they love Benfica. They're boyhood supporters of that club. I mean, that's their own prerogative. But do you think that will help him? Could we see him even kick on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think Bernardo's doing anything wrong at the minute, to be honest. But yeah, you can never do. I suppose it's a wee pal to go to Nando's with after training and whatever. I wonder if James Forrest ever managed to convince the wee Celtic TV lassie to go with him. But no, I think it probably could. It always helps to have someone of a similar culture in a dressing room. But as we've alluded to, he's been around the block a little bit. He's a cultured laddie, so I'm sure he'll settle in absolutely no problem. And anything that can help Bernardo bring his game on is great. But to be fair to the big man, I think him and Engels have more than kind of helped us get over the loss of Matt O'Reilly. It's been a bit of a seamless transition. But yeah, I don't see any. It can't be a bad thing. Put it that way.
Jimmy Brown, he's coming off with some crackers tonight. Jota being back brings out the best out of my missus. I might get to eat my dinner instead of wearing it. She loves him. And what's a mental pause? Oh, right, okay. And that is no joke. You're on fire tonight, aren't you? Even your ma's noticing as well. Well done, Jimmy. But again, bittersweet. This is where we have to come with a different angle, and we have to talk about a departure of a great striker for Celtic Football Club. McGinty, servant for 3.5 years? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, 3.5 years. Yeah, 85 goals and 100 odd appearances. Kyogo Furuhashi has left to join the club. Rennes that Jota joined Celtic from. And this is what I mean. The announcement was great today, but half an hour later, you're getting hit with the news that it's confirmed that Kyogo has left the club. And again, you see all the compilation videos that people make with all that sad music, by the way. And it tears you up a wee bit when you're watching it, and you're like, we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him. Well, we'll talk about what potentially his replacement could be. There's a couple of questions that have starred as well. We'll come on to them. So again, anyone firing questions, firing anything, we'll talk about it. But McGinty, it's confirmed. €10 million, I believe, Rennes have paid for him. He's 30 years old. Probably his last move in European football, I would say. Get into the French league. I think Kyogo was quoted saying he wanted to try himself out in a league that was recognised and that was the top 5 leagues in the world, or whatever kind of paraphrasing there. And he wanted to test himself against the best. And look, that's his own that's his own ambition. That's fair enough. I don't think he's pushing on the Scottish League or he's talking down to his achievements with Celtic. He's obviously loved his years with Celtic. But what I found surprising was when Rodgers said that this has been in the works for months, and he kind of first alerted to him the fact that he wanted to move on in the summer, and then that got stronger and stronger as it grew to January, and it kind of grew arms and legs, and Rennes with that club that made contact. It was just the timeline. It was strange for me how long it was. But he's away. McGinty, how you feeling? I mean, it's going to be a massive, massive gap to replace.
Yeah, we'll get on to the replacement side of it later, I guess. But for Kyogo leaving, it's heartbreaking to a degree. Obviously, exaggeration to some degree there. Obviously, I'm not actually bawling my eyes out for Kyogo to leave, but in the realms of Celtic and football and kind of the levels of emotion of it, it's up there as one of the ones that you never wanted to see leave. Larsson was the best striker in my lifetime. The best striker in, just even.
Technical glitch there, mate.
But Larsson and Anthony was he's the best striker I think the club's ever had. I can only ever say from my lifetime, really, because I don't know too much, but I think most people would say ever. But for me, the wee man Kyogo, he's the best striker since Larson. And I take in Dembele, Edouard, and Hooper, who I think were fantastic strikers as well. But Kyogo, the best since Larson. I think there's parallels to. Hello, Stephen. I think there's parallels to Larson to a degree, but I'm not going to say he's as good as Larson. He's absolutely not, before everybody claims that one. But he's the best striker since Larson, and he's probably the best player overall, not just striker. He's probably the best player, my favourite player I've seen probably since Larson. So to see him leave it is a wee bit of a sad day. But then I'm also getting Jota back, so, swings and roundabouts at the end of it. But even those ones, I truly wish Kyogo all the best in the world. Akin to Hooper, when Hooper left, we knew why he left. He left because he wanted to chase the England call-up. He made the bad call with Norwich. They only played one striker. I think they already had a striker, and then they signed Ricky Van Wolfswinkel as well. So he's on hiding to nothing, Hooper was. So I hope Kyogo's situation isn't going to turn out the same way. I hope he gets his short reins. They are flirting with relegation just now. But I hope he gets noticed in that big league. I hope the Japanese manager why he did pick Kyogo more is an absolute mystery. But I hope he gets the recognition, he gets his calls up, because I think that's truly why he wanted to leave more than anything else. Try somewhere new, somewhere different. He came from Japan to Scotland. Surely nobody figured that he was only ever going to stay in Scotland and go back to Japan when there's so much better culture to experience across Europe. So fair play. He gave us 3.5 great years. It would have been nice to have seen him hit 100. It would have been nice to have seen him get to the end of the season. It would be nice to have given him a proper send-off. But it is what it is. 10 million, you can't grumble it. All the best, Kyogo, and I genuinely hope that we do see him at Celtic Park at some point again.
Well, going by the rate that the Celtic board are doing their transfer days in 18 months' time, when he's on a free from Rennes, he'll be back at Celtic Football Club to see out the rest of his career. But Anthony, I mean, a lot of comments coming in. Your man comes in. I love wee Kyogo, and too many will be the same. Best since Larson, and I still hold Dembele and Edouard in front in his opinion. San Fran, Kyogo doesn't get picked anymore because he never impresses for Japan, I'm afraid. I know I don't get that argument about him leaving for his Japan aspirations, because Mieta starts basically every game for Japan, and Rio Tate's in most of the squads. Maybe that's a bad example, because Tate sits on the bench and he travels for 400 hours and never gets game time, but he's still in the squads, you know what I mean? So I don't know, maybe the Japan national coach doesn't hold him in the highest regard like we do. But yeah, it is a bittersweet moment. And again, the news kind of broke really fast after the Young Boys game. We were all in the hand in the group chats, and an hour later I seen something on Twitter and threw it in, and then it was like boom, it just exploded about 10:30, 11, and all these rumours are coming out. I don't think any of us believed it. To be fair, at that point in time, we all knew and had probably had an inkling that he was going to move on at some point, but maybe the summer he would see out the rest of the season. And and when you see the video Celtic put up today of his best moments, scoring against Hibs in the cup final, and the fog and the flares, unbelievable. Scoring them goals against Sevco, do you know what I mean? Making them look like idiots that they always are. Being so pivotal, and the trophies, the most recent trophies we've won, and an integral part. If you think back to when he first signed, he was basically the first bit of the jigsaw puzzle that Postecoglou put together, building a brand new team after the disaster we had in the 10-row season. And he came in and he just took it by the horns and he ran with it. And he's been an unbelievable player for Celtic.
He absolutely has, mate. Like you say, when Ange came in, obviously he started bringing his own players in straight away. We didn't know too much about him, but very quickly, he scored on his debut, which I think was away in Europe. I think Joe Hart made his debut that game as well. Obviously in his home debut, scored a hat-trick. And I think that day he done a sort of celebration with his tongue out, and I think obviously the comparisons were made quite early on. For me, I actually agree with McGinty. He is my favourite since Henrik, although to be fair, I've thought the guys they're all entitled to their opinions, and to be fair, you can easily make a case for Dembele or a hooper or an Edward. You even think of just like the goal machines. You think of players like Lee Griffiths and Scott McDonald scored a barrel load as well at Celtic, big game player as well. Although we've not had anyone that ever that will ever probably reach those heights of Henrik, we've had a lot of great strikers throughout the years. We've had some absolute duds as well, but our ratio is not too bad in terms of signing guys that can put the ball in the back of the net. But I think there was just something quite kind of talismanic about Kyogo. I think he had that kind of cool aloofness that Henrik had as well. And just as I say, you talk about that goal again, that's probably one of my favourite goals ever I've ever seen a Celtic player score. And especially when you think, you're absolutely spot on as well, when you think of where the club were in the doldrums at the time of the COVID season, the massive rebuild that Ange had on his hands, and yet within 5 months we were picking up, so we were getting back into that habit again of picking up silverware, and that is the Kyogo final for me. And then there was always the question the media loved to ask every time that first season, he's a superstar, but can he do it in the derbies? And then he practically scored in every derby after that. Right foot, left foot, both ends of Celtic Park, both ends at Ibrox, both ends at Hampden, cup final winners. Absolutely sensational stuff. He's, I've not seen his press conference today or any quotes, so I don't know what's been said, but sometimes these things can get a bit lost in translation. But I think he'll know himself that he was absolutely loved at Celtic, and he'll always be welcome back. But I think it's just been a case of, as Brendan says, since he's come in, obviously he deploys Kyogo in a bit of a different way, and obviously he's been here now for 3.5 years, and the rumours started gathering pace a little bit last summer, really, didn't they? And although I never took the Manchester City thing too seriously, whenever a player at Celtic, especially a foreign player, whenever they do the proverbial changing of agents, you kind of know that that's only really going in one direction. So I have to say, but a lot of people have kind of been criticising, the timing of this deal. But I think when you look at it, as Brendan says, but Kyogo's been, I don't think I couldn't imagine him being a kind of troublemaker in the dressing room, but it's very clear from what Brendan says that he's been wanting to go for a while. And my own sense on it, and I might be wrong, but it might not be any more wrong than some of the stuff that's been posted. I think we have potentially a similar thing that happened way back in '97 when Jock Brown had taken over the general manager role, and Wim Jansen had been he was signed as the head coach sort of thing. So what's his name? Jock Brown was in charge of all the transfers, and he tells the story that when Wim Jansen first took over, two of the three amigos, Van Hooijdonk and Cadet, had left Celtic already, quite acrimonious circumstances, and the consensus was at that time, keep Di Canio no matter what, and but we're not selling all three in one summer. And they did knock back bids for Di Canio, even though he was at the time wanting to leave. But then Jock had said, Wim Jansen had said that he wanted two players non-negotiable as part of his rebuild. One of them was Henrik Larsson, which was, I think we can agree, was a good bit of business. Mm-hmm. And the second player was Reggie Blinker. He'd known Reggie Blinker from time in Holland, and he really wanted to sign him. And Sheffield Wednesday made a bid for Di Canio. So Jock Brown kind of essentially got the maximum money that he could to get Di Canio out, got a player in that Wim Jansen wanted, and with the extra money that they got from selling Di Canio, that was able to finance your deals like Paul Lambert and Craig Burley and such like. So I think something, I might be wrong, but I think potentially something similar's happened here, but it's different circumstances. I think Kyogo has wanted to leave for the season, and I think Brendan, he doesn't have a total veto on things, we know that, but I think we've seen, especially since last summer, that more of what he wants to happen in the transfer market is happening. I don't think this deal would have been entertained in January unless the opportunity was there to bring Jota back in. Now, I know it's not a like for like. I know we still need to now replace him with a striker. But I think the fact that we've possibly taken the guess that we're far ahead enough in the league that we shouldn't have any issues there. And the other big thing was we wanted to make the Champions League playoff spot. I know a lot of people are talking about the Aston Villa game. The Aston Villa game, but for all intents and purposes, was not the big game in this campaign. The big game, the main one, was last week when Kyogo, although obviously was offside for his goals, he more than played his part in getting us over that line. And I think, as your friend Romano will tell you, life, the football world moves quickly, and there's possibly been something in place where Brendan's looked at it and thought, right, well, I don't want to lose Kyogo now. We would have preferred to keep him to the end of the season, but we're getting this opportunity to get a hell of a good chunk of money for him. We're ahead in the league. We've got a playoff spot, and this opportunity's arose to get Jota back in. And they've probably weighed it up and thought, do you know what? This is actually that's a situation where I'm agreeable to. As I say, I might be totally way off on that, but I don't think it's any further off than some of the stuff that's been bandied about. But absolutely, I think we need to get another striker. And of course, the next wee while, what an opportunity for Adam Ida. He'll no doubt he'll lead the line on Wednesday night down at Villa Park. But I would like to think before the window closes. I think it's at some point, but I think it's
February.
It's like sometime early February, isn't it? This one.
Aye.
I would like to think that we would have another striker in the door. Not because I don't, I'm a huge Adam Ida fan, but even numerically, that would be a huge length of time in the season to only go really with one recognised striker. I know young Kenny, I'm sure he's got all the raw talent in the world, but you can't just have the two of them going. So that's why I think we would have a striker of some sort. It might not be our number one. We might perhaps do what we did last year and get a loan in January, then look to either sign that person permanently in the summer or bring in a number one target in the summer. But I don't think Adam can do it on his own between now and the end of the season.
Nah, I do agree. And to be fair, Adam Ida, I love the fact that he played a huge part in the young boys' goal, albeit he didn't finish the chance, but he made the run and he created that opportunity along with a fantastic ball by Ray Watate. But see, to add on to what you were saying, I do tend to agree. I think that Rodgers has probably sought assurances from the board in some shape or form to get a replacement in. And someone from the press conference said about Dyson Maeda playing for the middle, and he said absolutely, but he doesn't see him there, and he wants to bring in the quality striker. So Rodgers knows that position needs addressed, and that gives me confidence. So sometimes you would find managers kind of ducking and diving under them kind of difficult questions and be like, yeah, Dyson could do a job in there, and just leave it at that. But he answered it head on, McGinty, and he said a replacement will be brought in. But before we move on to the rumours of who could replace him, I've started a few comments that I want to talk about as well. So again, another one. You just want to talk about replacements, questions, get them in. Let's go. But so I think it was Jamie Brown spoke about it. McGinty talking about challenging for trophies, playing in European football, and then making the move to the relegation battle in Rennes and in the French league. Did you expect this move? I know you were talking about maybe Jota won't be in the big leagues playing for the big clubs, but you could maybe see a Kyogo moving to a mid-table Bundesliga team and a mid-table EPL team. But he's plump for Rennes. I don't know why. Again, as his own kind of career path here. But do you find that move strange?
No. If you have to ask me, a yes or no, I'm going to say no. I think we all know his main reasons, as we've said already. It's to play in a top league to get recognised. He's won medals, he's won trophies here. He's won medals and trophies in Japan. He's played with one of the best midfielders ever in Iniesta. He's experienced a lot of highs And I'm not saying he now needs to go experience a low just because he has to. But I think he's moving on for one major reason. And again, Kyogo, I know he was linked with Man City in the summertime as an emergency backup option for Man City. Don't know how strong that rumour was, but he's realistically not going to be signing for an EPL, La Liga, PSG, Bayern. He's not signing for that level to win those trophies in those big leagues. So again, unless he was going to go sign for an Ajax or a Benfica or Porto, he's not going to win trophies. He would love to, obviously, and he's going to say that they'll give everything a fighting chance and look at the cup competitions and whatnot. And these clubs can always have a chance, but I think his main reason is for that recognition for the international stage. When it comes to Rennes, though, it's one hell of a coincidence that we get Jota back, and then this exact same day, that's when all this happened. Coincidences happen, but I'd be amazed if there wasn't some sort of talk between all four parties, between the two players and the two clubs. And it's not a player trading swap thing. I don't know the financial ins and outs of how all this operates fully, but I would imagine there's some sort of financial fair play, English version, French version of PRS, where things just need to be kept on the books in a certain way so that things happen properly. So I imagine there's probably been some sort of, all right, we want Kyogo and we don't want Jota. Do you want to pay? And then the prices are similar, so who knows? I think Kyogo said he wanted to leave in the summertime to Rogers, and he's held on to that as long as he could. And he's honoured Kyogo's wish. The opportunity's probably being presented to the club that Rennes is an option, and the club's probably then presented it to Kyogo, who's probably looked at it and went, yeah, that suits me. Yeah.
I don't know which. I mean, a wee bit of Seth Rogen.
The thing is, it's not the first time I've had that.
Wow.
But I would like to think if anybody saw me in real life, I mean, it must be this. But if anybody saw me in real life, absolutely not a chance. Not a chance.
But let me bring up a couple of star comments here. So let's see. Your man came in early on, Anthony, saying he's concerned on the Kyogo thing because Ida was at 9 million signing in Brendan's eyes in the summer, and I don't know if he will replace Kyogo properly. What do you think?
Well, I think that was. I don't think the initial idea was to pay £9 million because even although I'm the, as you know from the group chat, I'm not just the founding member. I'm the president. I'm the vice president, and I'm the majority shareholder of the Adam Ida fan club. But he's not a £9 million striker yet. But sometimes that's what the market dictates. The same way I don't think Alexander Bernabei is anywhere near worth the £6 million deal or whatever it is. But that's what we got for him. Sometimes these things, through circumstance or whatever, that's what happens. But yeah, I think Adam Ida is the same. We've spoken about this before. He's like the Brendan Rodgers prototype type of striker. He's powerful. He's got a bit of pace about him. And I know we're now nearly into February, but I do think that for a lot of players, the pre-season thing but in purely confidence as well. It's one of those things where that's what strikers especially thrive on, and I just think he's not been getting some of the lucky breaks that sometimes you need to be associated with to get that confidence. Which is why I was delighted at the way that obviously he got that break on Wednesday night when the ball ricocheted off the defender and went. And sometimes that's all it takes, and that can kickstart somebody's career again. If you can get back to the kind of performances that we've seen at the tail end of last season before he moved on, I think the one that really stands out was his performance at Rugby Park the night we won the league. You can clearly see that there's a proper specimen there to be a top striker, but some things need to go in his favour, and of course I don't think it's any lack of effort or want a trying on his part, but sometimes you got to get the breaks as well. Like I say, what an opportunity for him now, possibly in these next couple of games to make that claim. But yeah, I think Kyogo, I think it's kind of what we've been saying already. I think Kyogo, if we weren't as far ahead in the league as we are,
Yeah.
or if we weren't already, if we didn't qualify for the playoffs, which we have, or if the opportunity gets Jota, to get Jota in wasn't there, I don't think Kyogo would have left in this summer. There's possibly been an agreement with Brendan last season where he maybe doing the classic Fergie and Ronaldo at United, one more season, and perhaps Kyogo's not been overly thrilled about that, but he's still got his head down. He's still contributed with goals and assists, etc. But this is just through a unique set of circumstances. There's an opportunity for a deal to be made right now. But like what a lot of the guys are saying, I think there should be. I would like to see another striker come in before the window closes, because then I think that would take away some of the negativity in the sense that we've sold our number one striker halfway through a season. I think if we can get someone in to replace that, whether it be our number one target or if we can get someone in to kind of fill that gap between now and the summer, I think some of the outcry will die down in that. But as I say, I think any football team would be, or most football teams would be, somewhat lesser without Kyogo in it. He's a wonderful football player.
And a tough player to replace. I also know a young South Korean footballer that had a cracking game at Rugby Park. What was his name? Looked like a specimen as well, but he finds himself in a Genk in Belgium. That's how the football rolls, I suppose, McGinty. I'm posing the same question to yourself from your mag, kind of going off what Anthony was saying. The way I think this question was kind of said there was, do you trust Rodgers to spend a massive outlay on a player again, because in his eyes he's seen Alameda as a £9 million striker? How much will it cost to replace Kyogo? I've actually seen this argument come up a lot about Rodgers' hit rate and transfer markets and things like that. But I think Anthony said earlier on, I don't think he has the final say over everything. I think there's scouting reports, there's data, there's head scouts that would bring him detailed reports and stuff, and he makes the choice from there. I don't think he goes out and watches players anymore and things of that nature. But is it a concern? Do you have full belief in Brendan to get this correct, or are you like some of the commenters maybe because they've seen him spend fuck off, Monty with Shanklin. They've seen him spend. Who's bringing them comments up? Are you doing that, McGinty?
I'm not touching it.
No, not me.
That must be you.
I'm not touching it.
Generally, I'm not touching it. I took that away, but I didn't touch that to put that on.
I think this is going to mess up me again. This is strange. Someone's in my streamer, but I don't know. Anyway, but do you trust Rodgers to find a replacement for Kyogo?
Oh, right. There's so much there to unpack. Did you bring that one up?
Yeah.
Just checking. Right, so Adam Ida, £9 million. Anthony's going to want to chop my head off at some point during this. Adam Ida is not a £9 million player. We all know that. Let's not beat around the bush. Adam Ida done enough in his loan spell to deserve to be offered a deal and a chance to sign permanently, and I'm happy that he did. But he's not a £9 million player. And I know some people will say, well, that's the going rate. You have to pay that to get, things changed from 20 years ago when we were paying £5 million for Hearts and the Sutton and the likes. Yeah, it has, but Adam Ida still isn't a £9 million player. I'm just not going to agree to that. We got rinsed by Norwich. No other way around it. They knew how Celtic operate, and they knew that we didn't really have another main target. We didn't have somebody that could just go, right, you're taking the piss, we'll move on to someone else. They called up bluff with it. We had to go for it because there's nobody else. Rodgers wanted him. He did well last season on loan. He had big games, big goals in some big games without having big performances. But then the Kilmarnock performance was absolutely sensational. The unfortunate thing for Adam Ida is we've never seen that performance again since. And it's now proven, and I get, people take time to settle in and stuff, but this is quite a long time for Adam Mead to settle in when he came from the English league, and he had me 6 months, 5 months last season. But me and you, Stephen, sat here about a month into his season when he first signed in September there, and I think he scored about 5 goals. And I said, look, if he scores 5 goals every month, he'll be one of the best goal scorers of all time for Celtic at that point. Trajectory. But he's not done that. He's faltered. He's not found his feet. I've yet to see a game that he's taken the scruff of it like he did against Kilmarnock. And I believe that's in there somewhere for Adamida, but it's not coming out yet, so he needs more time. And I'm all for him being here at the club. I'm all for Brendan Rodgers wanted him, so we go get him. But he's not a £9 million player, so I think we need to push that out the window, the £9 million aspect of it, and stop fixating on it. We can find another striker for £2 million who's probably better than Adamida, but we might also need to go spend £13 million for somebody who maybe is on a par, maybe is better, maybe is worse, but has more potential, or whatever way combination goes. Football transfers are not black and white. They're not simple. You pay £9 million player, £9 million, you get a 20 goal a season. They're not simple like that. They're not. You pay £500,000, you get a Diddy. You pay £500,000, you might get Henrik Larsson. You pay £9 million, and you might get Toriandi Flo. Who knows? It's just the way football works. So I would give Adamida a bit more leeway than what I'm probably coming across as I'm giving, because there is a place somewhere in there. It's just he's not here yet. So we most certainly need to go find another striker. And I'm with Anthony that surely we've only agreed to sell Kyogo when we knew that we're surely getting somebody in or down the path somewhere. So when it comes to his comments about even Maeda, I think, Stephen, that's a shot at the board at the club. That is, don't make me rely on Daizen Maeda as a striker. You go get me a striker. And he's seen that to the board because we know very well that he doesn't have the final say. He doesn't have carte blanche, as no manager ever really has that at Celtic Football Club, let alone any club of these days. All the big clubs all have levels of directors of footballs, head scouts, recruitments, all the rest of it, all between and above and below the manager. So there'll be people who will be doing half his job for him, traditionally said. And who we find is hopefully somebody good. But he wants somebody. So that is a shock to the board, to the club for me, to find somebody else. Yeah. And I think if we do bring somebody else in, I think it helps Adamida. It takes that pressure off him. He's not ready to be the Celtic number one striker in the way that Kyogo was, or Hooper was, or Dembele was. He's not ready for it. I think you never know with people. He could thrive. He could suddenly spark and hit it, and it's fantastic. But I think we definitely need somebody else in who's going to help Adamida come through, because we can't just write him off at this stage. As much as I don't think he's been worth £9 million, I think we totally got fleeced. You can't write him off. There is something in there.
Aye, there's definitely something in the tank. Do you know what I mean? He needs to do it over a consistent run of games, and hopefully, like you said, Anthony, it'll be a shot in the arm, confidence-wise, the kind of build-up that he played in that young boys. Obviously, it was his own goal, but he had to make that run and hit that shot. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the position we are in European football. Now, the one player that's coming up time and time again for the replacement for Kyogo is, I think it's Neetsgarden from Brøndby, a Danish player. I've probably got it wrong, McKenty. Don't look at me like that. But, I always butcher pronunciations. We all know what I'm like on here. But he's young. I think he's 21, 22. Can play across the front line, can play centre forward, left or right. Predominantly, he's played up front for Brøndby. I think he has 14 or 15 goals this season. And apparently, he's worth 13.5 million, or that's what they're looking for him. And Paul McCune are very early on in the comments going, I wouldn't spend £13 million on the Danish guy. But again, you could always say on the other hand, Celtic supporters like myself moan that the Celtic board have to spend money and get with today's market prices. Can you see us going that high for a replacement for Kyogo?
I think there has always been, obviously, I think when Brendan first came back, he says, we're not in a time when we're going to be spending that type of money on a player. But circumstances change, and obviously we went out and we bought Engels for 11 million. So it's not to say that within that price bracket, it's not, within the realms of possibility. I'll be honest, mate, I've never seen him play. I've obviously heard the name
I haven't.
bandied about. He's one of those ones that it's like the last 2-3 windows there's been chat about this guy. As I say, I've not seen him play personally, but I've heard enough good stuff about him to suggest that it would maybe be a good signing. It would obviously all depend on what if he's the type of player that Brendan wants. Is he similar to Ida, or is he totally different? He kind of likes to have different options. But I don't see any reason why, if Brøndby were happy to do a deal in January, why we couldn't, why that couldn't come off. But like you say, it would absolutely be a big outlay. And if it was to be that, that would be obviously not only a club record, but a Scottish football record as well. But breaking records is what we're all about these days. So watch this space.
Exactly, McGinty. Would you be comfortable with that outlay for a relative? I mean, he's all known, obviously, to us, but seems to be playing well in the Danish league. I know Caden McLeish put in the comments there to get a Mohamed Kudus or Mohamed Diamande in the Danish league. It's hit and miss, but if you do your research properly, this fella seems to be on the radar since 2 transfer windows ago. Last January, I think he was on the radar. Celtic, by all accounts, have been continuously looking at a situation for Brøndby. They're looking at that amount of money. Would you take a gamble?
Yeah, I would. I've watched his highlights, of course. I mean, let's not pretend that we all sit here watching the Danish Super League. None of us do. But he looks a good, tidy player. He looks like he could fill a void without being exactly like Kyogo. He's different to Adam Ida. He can drift out to the wide, be up the right or the left to help out. I kind of got the impression he's similar to the brief cameo of what we saw from Kenny, that kind of striker that can play to the right side if you want to. So if we've got Maida, who's kind of on the left-sided version of it, then Vestgarden's the right side of it, then I think that's a balance somewhere in there. But I'll not pretend that I'm going to say here that he's going to hit the ground running, he's going to come in and score 20 goals between now and the end of the season if he was to sign. 13 million is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It's breaking the transfer record of the whole Scottish football. And breaks our record 3 times within the space of quite literally 6 or 7 months. But I think I would pay it to get the boy in. I don't see who else is out there that you're going to get for circa 10 million-ish if you can chop it up into a nice package and a nice deal to get to 13 sort of thing. I don't see who else is out there you're going to get that should realistically come in. I mean, he's 15 goals in 10 games, or 10 goals in 15? 10 goals in 15 games with a few assists. That's a decent return at the age of 22, I think he is. If he's what Brendan Rodgers wants, and again, we go back to the Adam Ida thing. If he's what Brendan Rodgers wants, and we have to believe that, we were linked with him last summer, summer and a half ago, 18 months ago, they must be somebody that the Rodgers is keen on. So let's get it done if that's the case, and let's get him in now. Because if for nothing else, some players need 6 months. Look at Nicholas Gould.
Some players need 6 months, even more, by all accounts. But it looks like the Louis Barry situation is drawn to a close. We had apparently a £10 million package rejected by Aston Villa, and now seems to be gone on loan to Hull. So that seems to be a dampener on that one. That's not happening. But before we end tonight's podcast, I'm going to throw something at you that's quite lighthearted. Obviously, Felipe Jota signing today. Anthony, I'll come to you first. Mm-hmm. What day this week are you going to predict Kieran Tierney signs in the dotted line and comes back to Celtic Park?
Oh, God, we're only finishing up the night without KT rumours, aren't we? I don't know, mate. I personally think, I don't know if it's this week. Well, Saturday's the 1st of February, isn't it? I think it goes into maybe this time next week. I think it might be a deadline day signing. I think that might be the one where because I think I might be wrong, but I think Arsenal potentially on the lookout for another player in that department as well. So it might well be the case of, can they get in their own target? And if that happens, they might be happy just to let Kieran come back in this window. I mean, I think there's too many sort of reputable papers and media people saying that at the very, very least he's going to sign a pre-contract to join in the summer. But even when those kind of deals happen quite, the early to midpoint of a transfer window, it sometimes works out better for both parties if the deal can just be made straight away. Whether that be, obviously that'd be a huge out, but even if they can work out some kind of deal to end his contract earlier or something like that, I can see it happening in this window, but I think it will probably be one that we're going to have for our deadline day chat, I think.
Yeah, deadline special. We're all wearing suits and yellow ties, I suppose. But I mean, it is interesting. Magente, I know Sviatchenko is looking out of Arsenal. He's exploring his options. They've got a young player. Can't remember the name, but he got sent off, I think, in their last game. So I don't think he'll be featuring going forward that much. And then KT's obviously the other choice at left back, and he's becoming on fits and starts. He's been getting more minutes as each game passes, and you just hope and pray he doesn't get injured. But what about yourself? You think it'll happen this window? Are you going to give a prediction like Anthony, or are you more of a summer man, pre-season contract, and that'll be it?
The story is that the pre-contract is signed, but then I saw stories today that the option of an extended year by Arsenal and all that chance is potentially there as well, but I don't know how that works exactly. But if he's going to sign, I think the crux of it is kind of similar to the value situation with us. If they sell Zinchenko, then they're not going to release KT. If they don't sell him, then they'll probably be opening the door to releasing KT. But again, they don't have any obligation to give us a favour here. They already gave us 25 million for the land. They don't need to give us any more financial benefits, so they're not going to help us out. If they were to cut it short by 6 months, 5 months, whatever the timescale is, I think we might have to pay a little bit of something. Be it KT's extra wages that he's missing out on, or whatever it is that we have to do. I think somebody said it's about 3 million, yeah. So whenever Arsenal deal with that is when we'll get KT. I just hope, as I said earlier, I'm one to put the boot into the board any chance I can get, and without putting it down on the chat tonight, because it's been quite a good one. Today's the start. Okay, we lost Kyogo, but we've got Jota in. Today's the start, finally, of our transfer window. If this is going to be, if last summer was the turning point of something new and backing Rodgers properly, then we've got only a few more days, 6 more days, to back him properly this window, because we do need something. We need another couple of players in for the rest of the European campaign, which is another 3 games at least, and we need players in to settle for the summertime, because we've got qualifiers, unfortunately. So back the manager, back the squad. Let's get a couple more players in. If it's KT and Fitzgarden, superb. But let's get more, and we need more than Jota.
Yeah, we'll see what the next week takes us, because I think the transfer window does end on the 3rd of February, which is this day next week. But that brings us to the end of the podcast tonight. Very enjoyable one. Anthony, have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely, mate. As I say, great being back on, and fingers crossed for a good result on Wednesday night, and hopefully that does us favourably for the playoff draw.
I know we haven't even talked about it that much, have we? But we're playing Aston Villa on Wednesday. I suppose, look, there's no dead rubbers and things, but the meaning of that game has been kind of took out, because we got the result we were looking for at Young Boys, and anything we get at Villa Park's a bonus. And we obviously hope for a fantastic result and a fantastic day and evening for the Celtic fans who always travel in their thousands down to Birmingham, and I hope they have a great time and have plenty of alcohol and just get ripped up, especially with the news that Felipe Jota is back in the Celtic top. But Magente, Paul McFarlane, thank you, buddy. Brilliant show tonight as always. Have you enjoyed it, Magente?
I have, and just something just crossed my mind there. Again, I'm going to get crucified for this one, but this is the difference of what we could have and what we may have and all the rest of it. I believe that the front three on Wednesday night is going to have to be Yang, Ida, and Kuhn. And that could be the bulk of the trio for the rest of the season if we don't get other people in. Obviously, Jota's in, but we need to get another striker in because we can't fixate on having Yang and Ida leading the line because we need help.
Give us a quick score prediction, both of you. McGinty, you go first.
2-2 draw.
Anthony?
2-1 Celtic.
Sounds good to me. I'll go 2-1 Celtic to keep that positive chat going. And everyone else, until Friday when we're back, and we'll be talking about hopefully a good time at Villa Park. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.